let us know where you are calling in from. So if you can drop your school or the state that you're calling from, whatever information you'd like to share, throw that in the chat. You might have a friend in there. You never know. All right. All right, Nahema, back to you.
Yes. So, I created this lesson called The Power of Appearance because I noticed that so many people are going on job interviews or they're looking to get new positions within their career and they don't know how they should dress, which you should always want to dress the part. So I created The Power of Appearance, which is the gold standard, to teach people how they should present themselves during an interview, whether it's from what they're wearing to, how they're behaving with their body language during that interview. So I think this is actually great for people who are just graduating from college because so many times, you're just told that you should just dress in business formal, but all these companies are changing the way they want you to dress. They're changing the dress code. So I thought this would be a great opportunity to, teach everyone what dress codes are, how to find out the dress code and the culture of the company, and how they can utilize it to their advantage when interviewing.
Awesome, awesome. That's definitely great. I remember as a student and as a resident and as a professional preparing for interviews, they were all in person when I was interviewing. But I've noticed with some of my mentees and students and even professionals that I've worked with, getting ready for the interview process in a virtual setting has been slightly challenging if they're not accustomed to utilizing the virtual process, whether it's lighting or, where they set their computer or even just what they wear.
Correct.
So I think the first topic we should probably hit on is what is your first impression and why is it important?
Your first impression is very important because it's a lasting impression. So when people see you, before you can even open your mouth, they're looking at what you're wearing. And then from there, they're looking at your body language. So if you are dressing how you feel, people can actually tell how you feel by what you're wearing. And then on top of that, they will formulate this opinion about you. They don't know where you're from or what's going on with you, but they're already formulating an opinion about you. I actually have a personal share about that. I went on a job interview years ago. I was in college. I was a struggling college student. And, I needed to make more money. I was working at retail at the time, and I think I was making probably like $8 an hour or something like that. I had my own apartment. So I went on a job interview, but unfortunately, I had gained the freshman 15. So a lot of my clothes no longer fit the way they did before I got out of state. And, I went on a job interview. From what I had on, it was professional. I had on a black skirt, a button-up blouse, and a blazer with some, hosiery and some loafers. However, because of that freshman 15, my clothes did not fit the way that they used to. The woman interviewed me. She asked me all the typical interview questions. And then her very last question to me was, so what are your views on dress code? And I knew it was a jab at the fact that my clothes were more form fitted than what they should have been. But because of that first impression, she had no idea what I was going through. She did not know I was a struggling college student. She did not know that I wasn't able to afford to buy new clothes, hence why I was trying to get a higher paying job so I can, afford those type of things. And it's unfortunate that when people first lay eyes on you, they automatically create an opinion about you without knowing your story. And unfortunately, within the business world, they don't care about your story. The only story that they care about is if you can come in and do the job and do the tasks that are asked of you. And that's it.
Yeah, that's pretty harsh. There's also probably a generational thing there too,
Absolutely.
in regards to presentation. I dropped a question in the chat, guys. I do want this to be interactive, and I know a few of you are on here, so I will call you out. But what's the first thing that you notice when you meet someone? I know for me, I usually will notice if they're smiling. Okay, see, Chelsea, I was gonna call you girl. All right, their appearance, exactly. What about their appearance, Christina? Chelsea said hair and shoes. That's a big thing. I'll tell you for me. So you see my hair, guys. My hair is natural. But growing up where I grew up, Southern style of living, I guess you could say, a lot of my interviews when I went out as a PGY1, I wore my hair straight or I wore maybe a wig. And so my the program I matched with, my hair was straight when I went in for my interview. And then when I came my first day for PGY1, my hair was in a fro and it was probably about this big. And some people were confused. I did have people questioning who I was for a second. That's okay. Um, but at that time, my thought process was hair would stand out because I have big hair. So let me tone it down. That's something we don't do now. We present in our full self in 2022. But
Be
back
your
then,
authentic self in 2022.
yes, yes. And that's where I want you guys to be comfortable. We may have to fix a thing here or there, but I want you to present authentically. So, appearance, shoes, clothes, that's just what Nahema mentioned too. Those all stand out. So, if you're seeing that as your first impression when you meet someone, they're seeing that about you as well. All right.
Absolutely. And
So,
you brought up a good point too. You mentioned that it's a generational thing because, when I started working, my very first job, my first interview, I wore one of my mother's business suits. And it was for a retail store that was a fabric shop. And the fact that I had to go in there dressed like that, it tells a story because back then that's what they wanted you to do. They wanted you to always come in dressed to impress, dressed to be prepared for anything. But now things have drastically changed, and I'm so glad that they have.
that's so true. And that's a topic we're going to, well, we can go ahead and move right into that. So I would love for you guys to drop into the chat. What particular positions are you interviewing for? With Dream Secured Mentoring, as a clinical pharmacist and as someone who's done residency, my focus is on students and professionals in the pharmacy realm. But I work with all professionals and all students across the board. So I'm very interested in seeing what positions you guys are potentially interviewing for. So if you can drop that in the chat, Kim, that would be great. Janelle, I definitely would appreciate that, Andrea. And we can kind of hit on those. If I didn't call your name, drop it in the chat too. I just know they won't be mad at me. But what kind of, so say I'm interviewing for, we'll say for a pharmacy residency position. So it's a clinical hospital position. You're familiar with the medical background, working in the medical field. What would you recommend? Yes, Andrea, for a psych position, what would you recommend your presentation to be?
I would recommend for those type of presentations, you don't have to be business formal. You can actually be business casual. So let me actually share my screen to show what an example of business casual looks like. With business casual, you don't have to do a full suit as far as, with business formal. Business formal, they require that you wear, if you're a man, pants with the matching blazer, which is a full suit. For a woman, you can wear a full suit. It could be either pants or a skirt. You have to wear hosiery that are flesh tone or dark colors. Your suit would have to be, one of the deep primary colors. So it would actually have to be either blue, black, or gray. However, with business casual, you're actually able to tone it down a little bit. So, men can wear their sport coat or casual blazer, which is optional. They can wear a sweater. They can wear dress slacks or chinos. Women can wear a dress or a skirt. Your skirt always has to be knee length or longer. You can wear a blouse with any color that fits your skin tone. You can wear sweaters, blazers, again, are optionals. And companies that ask for this type of business casual are Eli Lilly and Company, which is a pharmaceutical company I worked for many years ago, Pfizer, Cisco System, and Honeywell. Some of the positions, or just for examples, are administration, bankers, IT, management, as well as in the pharmaceutical world, like pharmaceutical reps, lab managers. So it's a more toned down look, but you still make sure you want to be polished and groomed.
And I'll add to that for residency interviews. I've seen it run from business casual to full on suit and tie for guys, skirt or, like a suit for women as well, or pantsuit for women. it all kind of depends on, I would say, what do you feel comfortable with that's business casual and above. So I've had people come in, they have like a nice blouse on that may be a little stronger of a color, that's not as muted, and they do stand out. But if it looks good with your complexion, you know, you don't want to wear a neon green blouse
Right.
or blazer. I say that, and Nahema agrees, but it has happened. I have seen it.
I've seen it as well. I've seen it as well. You want to keep it simple. Keep it
Yes,
simple.
yes,
And
for
you also want
sure.
to stay away from trends. You want to stay away from patterns that are a distraction, because what ends up happening is when you're in your interview, the person is so focused on what you're wearing instead of being focused on who you are and the information that you're providing them about your background and what you have to offer to the company.
That's definitely true. Being a part of an interview panel for residency, remember these people are just like you and me, and they have opinions. And just like you guys mentioned, the first thing you see is whatever that may be, and they do comment on that, and some may put that as a note on your file. So although it is very surface level, it does make a difference. So all right, so we have an idea. Does anyone have any questions about what to wear or anything specific that you had a question about as far as first appearance?
You know, one really quick thing I want to add too, and I've seen this during interviews. You know, we all love a good Louis Vuitton bag, Chanel bag, but you want to stay clear from bringing those to an interview, because the person who is interviewing you, they will see that as you don't need this job. It's unfortunate that they would feel that way, but they would honestly look at you as if you don't need a job, because if you're coming in with a bag that's worth probably $1,500, then why do you need to be here? So you want to make sure that you keep your bag that you're bringing with you, whether it's your briefcase, something to hold your laptop in, keep it very simple.
That's definitely, and I have heard people comment on things like that for sure. So, moving into the residency realm, just come in with your portfolio, or people, you know, you don't really have a briefcase usually, but something that's going to hold like your business cards, if you're bringing your business cards, an updated CV, and just in a nice, clean, most likely leather folder. All right. So, but yes, keep it simple. All right. So, since no questions are there, what's the difference between virtual and in person first impression? So, we mentioned how you look when you're coming in, and we've been focused on in person interview. But how can you make a good first impression from a virtual standpoint?
Honestly, it's the same thing. It is the same exact thing. So when you're having a virtual interview, the only thing that you want to make sure is that you have good lighting and a good background. So for myself, you know, I just moved into an apartment, so I'm still trying to get everything together. I Googled Zoom backgrounds and found the best one that I felt was, you know, appropriate for what I needed to do. You want to make sure that you have a ring light. You can get them at stores like Five Below. You can order some from Amazon, and they're very inexpensive. So if you can get yourself a ring light, something to keep near you, so that way they can see who you are and things that do not distract from the background virtually, then I'm telling you, it will definitely set you up for success.
That's for sure. So I know a lot of you will be interviewing virtually if you haven't interviewed virtually already. One thing that I have a ring light here. I'll leave it off camera. And then I also have a lamp. If you don't have a ring light, a lamp works. If it's an interview during the day, sit in front of a window and have the sun facing you. The sun is the best lighting that you can have. But you want to also make sure that your background is either a set background or a really good virtual background, like Nahema stated. You want to also make sure that your computer or phone, whichever one that you are utilizing to interview with, is eye level. So mine is eye level now.
That is key. That is definitely key, because when you keep it
Yeah.
eye level, one thing I tell people when going on interviews, you want to make sure that you have an effective eye contact with the person that's interviewing you, because that shows that you are alert, that you are paying attention to the interviewer, and that you're interested in what they have to tell you. So when you keep your computer at eye level, that gives the effect of keeping that eye contact with the person as well. Then on top of the fact that you want to make sure that when the camera is from here to up, that they're just paying attention to you. They're only focusing on you. There have been too many times where I've seen interviews and even meetings with C-suite executives where their background is just complete chaos. And to this day, I can't tell you what they were talking about because my focus was on the chaos. Why is there so much chaos behind you? What's going on in your home? Then on top of that too, I know people, they love their pets. They have fur babies. You want to make sure that your fur babies are out of the camera, because your cat, your dog, your rabbit, whatever pet you have is not being interviewed. It's you who's being interviewed. So that will actually add to the distraction as well. So you just want to make sure that you keep distractions at a minimum when you're doing a virtual interview. And like I said, have a background put up. You can find one on Google, get you some ring lights. If you don't have a ring light, get a lamp and you're good to go.
That's for sure. And one thing too, and you guys, if you have questions, of course, put it in the chat. Remember, and I had this conversation with a mentee earlier this week, looking at the camera will give the impression that you are making eye contact with those that you are speaking to. I tend to look at my screen, and as you can see, it looks a lot different. It looks like I'm looking, I don't know what's happening. But if I'm looking at the camera itself, then it's as if we're having a face-to-face conversation. It is very awkward. And I challenge you to try that right now. And definitely try that before your interviews so that you can become a little more comfortable with that. Would you agree, Nahema?
No, I totally agree with that. And another thing too, if like for myself, my laptop is actually connected to a computer screen. So you want to make sure that when you're doing your virtual interview, you're actually looking at your laptop and not the computer screen. Because what happens is you're trying to focus on the computer screen and looking at that person is going to think to themselves, you're not interested, you're not even looking at them. When indeed you are, you're just looking the wrong way. So you just want to make sure that your focus is on your camera, on your computer or your tablet, whatever device that you're using. Make sure your focus is on the camera itself. So that way, you give that impression that you are giving that face-to-face conversation with them.
That's definitely for sure. And Kim, we all need to work on it. It's totally fine. But just really be very diligent about looking at the camera. Like, so for instance, my computer has a green light on it. So I can look at that green light. If you need to put a picture above it or right beside your camera, as long as it's not distracting to those that you're interviewing with, put that there so you can look at that and make sure you're looking at that to talk to the people who are interviewing you. I will tell you now, the people interviewing you are probably not going to do that. Not your problem. We want you to put your best foot forward, okay?
Exactly. Yeah. I totally agree with that. It doesn't matter what they're doing. As long as you are showing up as your best self, that's all that matters during the interview.
Now, Nahema mentioned something about pets. I would definitely interview in a place that if you have pets that are disrespectful, like cats, I have two. They like to join in on video conversation. So if you can go to a place where you can close the door and be by yourself, that's great. Or lock a cat. I don't know. My cat's back here. But they're quiet tonight, so that's good. But if you have people in the home with you, if you have children, if you're working at a site, so say you're on rotations and you have an interview at a site, ask to conduct your interview in a quiet location so that you're not going to be disturbed by anybody walking by or anyone walking in your background, and that there's not any noise distractions as well.
Right. So it's very important because you mentioned the noise distraction, to get earbuds or some type of device just to cover your ears. So that way, there will be no distractions during your interview. And again, those are something that you can pick up from Amazon. They're very inexpensive. So it's not that, we turn into this virtual world and now you have to spend all this money. Honestly, a lot of these things can be found in the Dollar General or Five Below, and you do not have to spend more than, I would say, like $10, $15.
Earbuds are definitely a go-to. And I'll tell you because when you're interviewing, and a lot of times if you're in an open area, you may echo. If you don't mute fast enough, you'll get feedback when people are talking to you. You guys have been on Zoom. I'm sure a lot of you had school through Zoom at this point. And so you don't want to have that feedback interrupt a response that you have for an interview question. And you also want to make sure that you're able to hear the question that's being asked of you clearly as well. So I definitely would recommend earbuds. You can use the headphones that go directly, connect directly into your computer or your tablet or whatever the case may be. But earbuds would definitely be great. I have them on now, and without me telling you, you probably wouldn't even see it. So yes, please.
Definitely. And you know what, too? Make sure that you run a test before your interview. So if your interview starts at 4 p.m., you don't want to log in at 4 p.m. You want to log in about 10, 15 minutes early to make sure that your devices are working properly. So that way, if there won't be any interruptions, you want to avoid interruptions at all costs. And if there is an interruption, you'll be able to just continue to flow with the interview.
Perfect. Yes. All right. So moving forward, let's talk about posture and body language. So interviewing in person, it's very easy to see your posture and your body language, but I want to focus on how we can make sure those things look just as good during a virtual interview.
Yes, so body language and posture. I actually went on an interview for an ad agency in New York, and I was so thrilled to go on this interview because I really wanted to work there. The person who was interviewing me, he was actually a C-suite executive. It was for an executive assistant position, and his body language turned me completely off from the company and the role itself. As I was talking to him, he was asking me, the general interview questions, and I was giving him examples of projects that I worked on. He was really like this and looking at his watch and looking out the window and looking out the door. And then at one point he was like, and I said, oh no, interview's done. I cut the interview off because I was no longer interested. So you want to make sure that your posture shows confidence. You sit up straight. There's some people who have a hard time with sitting up straight, so you can always use a chair to leverage you. You can get a pillow and put it behind you to give you that back support. Or you can just, clasp your hands like this and put them on your desk. That will actually help you to, sit up straight, have your shoulders back. I'm not saying that you have to stand like, a militant person, but you just want to make sure that you're upright. And when you're sitting upright, that actually adds to your eye contact with the person that's interviewing you. So it's maintaining that eye contact with the person. And then when you're also standing up straight, it keeps you alert. It keeps you, showing your confidence, and it shows that you are aware of where you are and you're confident in where you are.
How many of you fixed your posture when Nahema said that? Add that in the chat. I almost did it, but I didn't do it quite. But yes, your posture is very, very important. And it's also important for you to remember if you, Andrea, I'm going to use you as an example. So Andrea and I were practicing for an interview, and I noticed that she would move something around on her hand, a ring on her hand. So if you have something that you do that you're not aware of, or maybe someone points it out to you, if you're a hand kind of talker, for sure you want to clasp and sit. So that way you're not distracting those that are interviewing you.
Yes, and I know for myself, I'm a very animated person outside of my professional life. So sometimes when I'm talking to people, I get so excited about what I'm talking about, I use my hands a lot. But what happens is when you're in an interview and you're using your hand, you look like Doctor Strange from Marvel, like you're doing too much. So that distracts the person from what you're talking about. They're busy focusing on what your hands are doing. Like, well, what is this person about to do? Are they about to hit me? They're about to throw something at me? No, like it's a sign of nervousness, if you will. It's definitely a sign of nervousness. So definitely, keep your hands clasped. If you do use hand gestures, it's okay, but you just want to scale it back. You don't want to do too much. If you just do like this once or this, that's fine. But other than that, you just want to just keep your hands in one central location, so that way it don't show that you're nervous and it won't distract from your interview.
Perfect. Awesome. All righty. Yeah, Kim. Both hands in lap. Perfect. 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 All right. Did you guys have any questions regarding any of that information before we move forward with our next topic?
I got a quick question.
Okay.
My question was, hi, this is Andrea, and I'm one of her mentees. So I did have a quick question about virtual backgrounds. So I haven't really found one that really works, because I noticed that it kind of makes a weird outline around me. And I wonder if that is a distraction as well. So I just wondered what y'all thought about that.
Yes, so that can definitely be a distraction as well. I know that on Zoom, they have the feature where you can blur out your background. So if you're unable to find anything on Google or anything like that, you can use the blurred background. So that works just as fine too. So just make sure that you find some type of corner or area in your house that doesn't have too much in the background, and then you can blur it out and then move forward with your interview.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That is very distracting. And maybe because I'm just me, but I get distracted by that. And I'm like, do they not see their face? Okay. But yes, use the blurred background. That definitely helps. The thing you look like. Anyway, great question, Andrea. All righty. All right. So next, let's talk about, so we talked about our presentation first, impressions, things of that nature. But what about those impressions that we don't know people are looking at? So that's more of your social media impression. So is our social media impression important? Do we have a social media impression? Okay. You know what? Take it away. Take it away.
So people are going to look for you on social media. They're going to look to see if you have a Facebook page, Twitter, TikTok, because you are essentially going to be a representation of this company. So they want to make sure that the person that they're bringing on does not clash with the mission and vision of said company. So if you have a personal Instagram page, Twitter, Indeed, not Indeed, but Facebook, make sure you put your settings on your personal page to private, because what you do from Friday after work to Sunday is your business. Okay. So if you have a professional page, you want to make sure that you're putting up information about things that you do, professional topics that you're interested in. So that would be something on LinkedIn. So if you do not have a LinkedIn page, I strongly suggest you sign up for LinkedIn, because that is a great connection for you to meet people within your industry and to also connect with higher ups within your job. There are a lot of people out there, and one young lady that I work with in particular, who works with you to enhance your LinkedIn page. She helped me with bragging about myself on, projects that I've worked on, achievements that I've had. Those are the things that you want to focus on in your professional social media platforms. So again, if you have a personal page, there's nothing wrong with having a personal page. I have a personal page, but that page is blocked, and I do not follow coworkers, and I do not allow coworkers to follow me, because that is a recipe for disaster, and I speak from experience. So again, make sure those pages are blocked, your personal page, but when it comes to professional, keep it to LinkedIn. Trust me, it will do you a world of service.
That's so true. So I usually will tell you, when you're interviewing, look up the people that are going to be interviewing you. So that way you have an idea of maybe what their interests are, what they do at the site that you're interviewing with, just so you can have some background information. Don't let them know that you know the name of their dog or anything like that, but it's just mainly for your awareness. But just like I tell you to look up the people you're interviewing with, they look you up as well. And I'm telling you from experience that people will look up your profile page. If you're here and you're in the world of pharmacy, it is a very small world. I'm sure you've heard that before. I say it all the time. But somebody knows somebody that knows somebody at a site that you're interviewing with. that has access to your personal page. So I definitely say yes. Make sure your personal page is private, especially during interview season. But still be aware of who can see what on your page. I'm not saying go in and be like, Emily over here is friends with the person that's interviewing at this site. Don't block her, anything like that. But just be aware that they will look you up, because they do want to make sure that how you present in an interview and how you are, I guess, behind closed doors or present on social media will fit with, from their mindset, the program. But they do look you up on social media.
The moment they get your resume and the hiring manager says, "Hey, can you bring this person in?" The moment they get that green light from the hiring manager, they are looking you up.
Yes. Before you come in for your interview, when you leave from your interview, they're going to look you up. So just make sure that your presence speaks on your behalf well, and shows a really good picture of you to those that you'll be interviewing with. Any questions, or did you have anything else regarding that, Nahema?
And also on LinkedIn, you can see who's viewing your page. So if you have the free version of LinkedIn, they'll show you a few people. But if you have the paid version, it will show you who has looked at your page. I can't tell you how many times I went on interviews, and then by the time I got out that interview, I looked on my LinkedIn and I can see those same people I met with checked out my LinkedIn page.
So be mindful that they can see that you look too.
Yeah, and you know what? Here's another thing you should do. Google your name. Google your name and see what comes up, because this type of world that we have been living in for years, and that's the social media world, everything stays, nothing disappears. So Google your name, see what comes up, and see what you can possibly block or get rid of, because what you posted 5-10 years ago does not define who you are today. You're a completely different person from who you were 5-10 years ago. So definitely do a Google search of your name.
That's really good advice. Okay, any questions about social media impressions? Okay, hearing none. Alrighty. So we've mentioned what to wear, right? Because we are here to make sure we have the best image and the best foot moving forward. But I challenge you guys to, if you would, look down and tell me in the chat, are you wearing, maybe not, but just look down and be aware of what you have on that's waist down, okay? Versus what you have on waist up. Most of you have your cameras off, so I can't see you anyway. But if you were in an interview, Nahema, would you say dress business from the waist up or all the way down?
I would say all the way down to be on the safe side, because when the pandemic first started, I heard stories of HR reps asking people to stand up to show what they're wearing. So you don't want to get caught out there. I doubt they're still doing that. It's got a lot more lenient as we progress through this time. But you always want to be prepared, always. I'm not saying you have to put shoes on. You can just put on a skirt, some pants. You can keep your fuzzy slippers on, but just in case the camera falls or something happens, you just want to make sure that you're prepared in that type of scenario. So I would say dress from head down.
In a pharmacy interview, no one's going to ask you to stand up. I promise you. But you never know. From that story that Nahema mentioned, I actually put on dress pants tonight. I was going to give you guys sweatpants, but that's okay. So make sure it might not be the most comfortable thing, but it also will put you in a mindset that, I'm not just interviewing, from my home or from my Appy location or whatever the case may be. I'm interviewing for a full position, for a residency or a career opportunity, and it'll put your mindset in that mode. Sometimes we can be a little too comfortable when we're wearing, sweatpants, t-shirts, anything. We're in our home clothes. So put your mind and body in that position of being in an interview. That way, it'll keep your posture correct. Your mind will be fresh and ready to respond to questions, and it'll really put you in that state. Does that?
Totally agree with you on that one. You always want to, when you get up, even if you're not leaving the house, get dressed as if you are leaving the house. Because, like you said, it puts your mind in that mindset of, okay, I'm getting ready to take over this interview, or I'm getting ready to do this work task, or I'm getting ready for a presentation. You always want to put yourself in that mindset so that way you are prepared for just about anything. So, when you wake up, I'm not saying that you have to, do a full beat of makeup and put a whole suit on, but, just put on something at least business casual or smart casual to get you in the mood for it.
Perfect. Okay. Nahema, did you have any other topics that you wanted to hit on regarding imaging and first impressions for interviews? Anything that we missed?
Yeah, you know what? I do want to share what business formal, business casual, smart casual, and casual looks like. So that
Yeah.
way, it can give, an idea. Now, one thing I do tell my clients is you do not have to break the bank. You do not have to go to Saks or any of those stores. You literally can go to Target, Old Navy, Macy's, Express, Zara. Zara is one of my favorite stores to go to get business attire. And these are items that can actually last you a good 3 to 5 seasons. So that's another thing you want to do. If you're buying work clothes, get you things that are going to last you 3 to 5 seasons. So that way, every month you're not buying something new. And then you just look at the instructions on how to take care of it. And I have this turtleneck I got from H&M. I've had this for probably 5 years now, but because I know how to take care of it, it still looks new. So you just want to make sure that you keep track of that. So let me just share my screen again to give some ideas as to those what those looks are like. Okay, so for business formal, this was when jobs really required you to have on a full business suit. So in this picture here, you have a young man. He has on a full suit. He has on, his conservative patterned tie, a white button up. He has his pocket patch. He has his briefcase, shoes, and the young lady is wearing a full suit, which consists of either a skirt or pants. This was a time where you could only wear solid colors. If a man was wearing a tie, he couldn't wear anything that had all types of designs and pictures and patterns on it. It had to be extremely conservative. So those type of businesses were, like Goldman Sachs or Berkshire Hathaway, J.P. Morgan Chase. And I worked at J.P. Morgan Chase, so I know this to be a fact. And Procter and Gamble. Some positions that require it to this day are television broadcasters, Congress members, or C-suite executives. So when I say those type of titles, you might start to think of, well, wait a minute. Yeah, like my favorite weather reporter is always in business formal, or, Congress member that I see on TV all the time is always in business formal, or a C-suite executive. So those are the type of position that ask for business formal. But like I said earlier, a lot of companies are definitely changing the way they are requiring their employees to meet their dress code. Another one is business casual, like I showed earlier today. This young man here, he's wearing a sweater with a button up. The young lady to the side is wearing the same as well. And it's a lot more casual. And when it comes to business casual, it makes you feel a little more relaxed at work. You don't feel so uptight or just stiff with a full suit on. So some of the companies that ask for business casual are Eli Lilly and Company, Pfizer, Cisco System, and Honeywell. And like I said, the positions would be like administration, bankers, IT, management, lab managers, pharmaceutical reps. Another category for dress code is smart casual. I love smart casual. Smart casual and casual are two categories that just started, I want to say, within the past 10 years. But with smart casual, you can really dress up what you're currently wearing with different forms of accessories, and that way you're giving yourself a transitional look, meaning that you can go to work from 9 to 5, and if there is a event after work, excuse me, a work event, then you can easily transition into that work event without feeling, oh, I feel like I want to go home and change my clothes. You still look good. You still look professional. So, for an example, this young man here has on some awesome Oxfords. He has on some nice tailored pants. He is wearing a tie, but he's also wearing a clip to go with that tie. And though he's wearing a denim jacket, he also has a pocket patch to go with that denim jacket. And he accessorized it with some amazing green glasses, and he has on a few rings, and he still looks professional. The young lady next to him is wearing some jeans. She's wearing some nice suede boots, a great blazer, which she rolled up a little bit on her sleeves. She's wearing simple jewelry. She has her hair up in a bun, so that way you can see her face. And she's also accessorizing with glasses. Some companies that ask for smart casual would be L'Oreal, Burberry, LVMH, Tesla, and some positions would be journalists, merchandising, communications, social media strategist, an entrepreneur like myself, or freelancer. And last but not least, you have casual. So casual and smart casual, like I said, started about, I want to say about 10 years ago. But casual really hit when a lot of tech companies started and a lot of startup companies came about, because these were young college students who were starting their own businesses, and they didn't want to dress like their parents or their grandparents were when going to work, because half of them, because they were starting their own businesses, we're working from home anyway. So what's the point of me actually putting on a full suit if I am sitting in my bedroom making hundreds of thousands of dollars an hour? So with casual, for both men and women, the rules are, very lenient, but you want to make sure you remain professional, polished, and groomed, because you may have an interview or a meeting with an investor. So you just want to make sure that you still look stylish, but not sloppy. This young man, he's wearing a nice belt with matching shoes, a pair of slacks, and he's wearing a button up, but this time he has rolled up his sleeves. He has on his glasses, great haircut. The young lady next to him is wearing jeans with a really cute blazer, a button up blouse, and what she did was she added a pop of color. So in this picture, she has a canary yellow purse, as well as some, you're not going to be able to really see it, but she has on some fuchsia pumps, and it looks really good and extremely professional. So what I also want to do too is share some golden tips for you to take with you on your journey with interviewing. When you are going on an interview, you want to make sure that you use sites like Glassdoor, Indeed, and LinkedIn, because just like they are going to search you when they come across your resume, you need to do a search and you need to research them as well. So with Glassdoor, Indeed, and LinkedIn, I would always suggest that you bookmark these pages, whether it's on your computer, your tablet, or your phone. So that way, when these companies reach out to you, you can automatically go to the site, type in their name, and research the company, research the culture of the company, research what their dress code is. And you can also see reviews from people who've worked there before. Is this actually a place that you want to be, judging by the reviews from other employees? Your attire should always be form fitted, never baggy, and leave your flip flops and open toe shoes in your closet. So when I was working in, corporate world during the summertime, I would wear my sandals to work because I lived in New York. I was taking a train to and from my house. So I wanted to be a little comfortable. But when I got to the office, I always had a pair of closed toe shoes in my desk or in my office, so that way I can just switch them out as I sat down. Now, I also worked in the pharmaceutical world before too. And when you are working in the labs, you're not allowed to have open toe shoes. So make sure that you have, some professional flats or loafers in your desk. Body language is essential, and it shows you're confident, engaged, and alert. So, like we said earlier, you just want to make sure that you're sitting up straight. You can keep your hands clasped in front of you, keep them on top of the desk. If you're interviewing at home, you can put a pillow behind you just to keep your back straight. Your hair should always be neat and well groomed. I have went on tons of interviews where I had faux locks and braids in my hair, but I always pulled them back and had them in a ponytail or in a bun so that way they can see my face. I don't care where you're working, you can have locks in your hair. Locks are a beautiful thing, but just make sure that you pull them back so they can see your face. You want to avoid wearing strong perfumes during any interview or meeting. I strongly suggest this because you do not know who you're meeting with. You do not know what type of allergies this person suffers from, sinus issues, and you don't want to be the reason that it is triggered. I actually worked in an office where one of the managers was, she did not like the smell of bananas. So we could not eat bananas in the office, excuse me, because she did not like bananas. So just if you use body butters or, shower gels that have strong scents, I would say if you're doing an in-person interview, just leave that to the side for that day. And when you're done, you can go back to using it. You also want to make sure that you're keeping your style simple. You want to stay away from patterns and accessories that are a distraction. Patterns are great. I love patterns, but you want to have a pattern that is low maintenance and very conservative. Avoid being flashy. Stay away from trends. This type of necklace I would never wear on an interview because they're going to be more focused on my necklace as instead of what I have to tell them. And also, I wouldn't wear red lipstick during an interview either because they're going to be more focused on my lipstick as opposed to being focused on me. You have to cover any visible tattoos. I have tattoos. I think tattoos are a beautiful form of art, but when you're in an interview, you just want to make sure you have them covered. I have a medium-sized tattoo on my wrist and I have a smaller tattoo on my ankle. So anytime I used to go on interviews, I would always make sure I wore a long sleeve shirt and pants so that way they could not see my ankle tattoo or my wrist tattoo. You always want to do a dress rehearsal a few days ahead to ensure that everything fits and looks clean and has no holes. Like the story I shared with you before, I had gained that freshman 15, so I didn't have other options. I had to go with what I had, but companies are going to call you and say, "Hey, it could be a Monday and they want to meet with you the next day." You have the right to tell them, I'm unavailable tomorrow, but can we meet on Wednesday or Thursday or even Friday? And that gives you the time to do a dress rehearsal in your house. Does it still fit? Does it have a hole? If it has a hole, you can quickly sew it together, or if it's something that cannot be fixed, then you can just quickly go and get something as a plan B. Now, during your virtual interviews, like we said, keep your background very clutter free because people are going to pay more attention on the clutter as opposed to you. Your fur babies, you have to keep them locked away in another room somewhere while you're interviewing. And last but not least, you want to make sure, last but not least, you want to make sure you brag on yourself and your accomplishments. Let me say that again. You brag on yourself and your accomplishments. Why? Because these are things that you need to be proud of. If you saved your company $250,000, you need to say that in your interview. I saved my company $250,000 by doing X, Y, and Z. If you were the first person to graduate in your class with honors, then you talk about that too if this is going to be your first job. But you need to brag on yourself and show the pride that you have for yourself. Another thing that you should do too, practice your interviews. Get your cousins, your aunts, your uncles, your mother, your father, your best friend, have them do a mock interview with you. If you don't have anyone to do a mock interview with you, do it in front of a mirror. Interview yourself in front of the mirror because you want to make sure that when you're in their interview, you're showing them that you are prepared. And when you're showing them that you are prepared as an individual, then you are prepared as an employee for that company because at the end of the day, you are a representation of that company. You have to be a mirror vision of that company's mission and vision. So you have to make sure that you are prepared for each interview. Last but not least, here are some stores that I can suggest that you can go to where you will not have to break the bank. You can go to Macy's, Express. Do not sleep on Target. Target has amazing pieces. Aldo's is one of my favorite shoe stores. Old Navy is a great place as well. Banana Republic. and you can really get some great items. You don't have to buy up the whole store. You can literally buy at least 2 pair of work pants, of like 3 blouses and 2 blazers, and you can rotate the looks and give yourself about 10 different looks. So you don't have to feel, oh, I'm wearing the same thing every day. No, you can just interchange the outfits and give yourself a wardrobe capsule. So, on that note, I would just like to say thank you so much for having me. It was such an honor to be here to talk to you, to share with you the importance of the power of appearance. If you would like to follow me on social media, please feel free to do so. I'm on Instagram under Black Gold Imaging. Facebook is Black Gold Imaging as well. LinkedIn under Nahema Washington. I love emails, so if you want to email me, feel free to do so. You can email me at nahema@blackgoldimaging.com. And you can go to my website as well at www.blackgoldimaging.com.
Awesome. Nahema, if you can leave that, I want you to leave that screen up so that everyone can go ahead and write your information down.
Sure.
But before we kind of wrap and open the floor up for questions, I did want to mention that with Dream Security Mentoring, we do have mock interview sessions. And so anyone that is not a mentee and that joined in this evening, I'm giving you guys 25% off the cost of that mock interview. And I did want Andrea to mention, because she said it was difficult to talk about herself, and it can be hard to really talk about and brag about yourself. But Andrea, if you can come off of mute and maybe give the listeners an idea of what the mock interview process is with me, and how it impacted your interviews thus far.
Yeah, absolutely. So I recently had a residency interview last week, I think it was. And so in the mock interview, Dr. Jessica basically just gave me some questions, like common questions that usually come in pharmacy interviews. And you think that you usually have the answer down, but then like when you hear yourself out loud, it's kind of good to have somebody else kind of give you, I guess, a different perspective on it, or something you could have said better. Because remember I said something and then she kind of rephrased it to where it was more palatable and to where it presented well. And then the other thing is, I really don't like bragging on myself. It's actually awkward for me. So she kind of like helped me with that. So it's really just anything that's an area. It's helpful because any area that's like, I guess, weaker in a sense, she's able to spot those out. And I definitely felt more prepared for my interview. Actually, I felt over prepared for my interview. I didn't think that until after I was done. So,
Yeah.
So it was, I was still nervous, of course, but then I felt well prepared. And you always want to go into an interview feeling well prepared.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
You know what you can do too during interviews? There are websites, well, like Glassdoor and Indeed and LinkedIn. I know definitely on Glassdoor, they have a section where people who have been interviewed for the position, for the company, they actually put up what kind of questions were asked of them. So that actually would, set you ahead of the game too. So that would be a great way to prepare for your interview. But I would say to brag on yourself. Brag on yourself because you have to be proud of all of your accomplishments that you've done. And the young lady who helped me with my LinkedIn page, she told me that we sometimes tend to be afraid to brag on ourselves because sometimes we feel like we might be overqualified for the position, or they're going to feel like, oh, we might have to not give her the role because we're going to have to pay her too much. Okay, well, if they feel that way, then that's not where you need to be. And it's okay, because then they get to move out the way for what's really meant for you.
That's definitely the case. I think for those who are interviewing for residency positions, it sometimes can be the opposite. You don't feel like you're qualified for the position, or you don't think that you're going to say the right thing or have the right answer. And that's definitely what I want you to know, that you are fully prepared. You are ready for this position. You are the best candidate, and we're going to show them how you're the best candidate with what you're saying. If they offered you the interview, I know y'all have seen that that thing on Instagram where Y'all ask for me. But anyway, yes, I definitely want you guys to be fully prepared. If you see the price on my website, and I'll send that to you, that's fine. If you need help, I'm gonna help you, and that's just that. So, but of course, like I stated, there is 25% discount for those who have not been working with here recently. But if you like to spark up a mentorship with me, and we can work together to make sure you're well prepared for residency interviews, make sure your CV is on point at this point or moving forward. I'm definitely here to help you guys. And I know that we were focused on imaging and how you present for interviews in this webinar, but I'll put in a YouTube page here where we discussed the do's and don'ts for residency interviews. I will say I was speaking with other preceptors for residency programs, and they gave their input on the do's and don'ts as well. So I would definitely challenge you or suggest that you go in and watch that video. It could definitely be helpful. I think, Andrea, maybe you mentioned that you had watched it previously. And so I want you guys to be as prepared as possible. So that's why we're here. So if you guys have questions about imaging, please reach out to Nahema. Her information is here on the page. So make sure you write it down. And with that, did you guys have any questions before we call it quits? Any questions, concerns, suggestions, or anything from the audience? You can come off mute or raise your hand or add it to the chat. We have that awkward silence.
I was going to say, if you are nervous to ask questions here, you can always reach out to me. I love answering questions. I love helping people with finding the power of appearance, because I just think that it for so long, I had no idea about it. So now that I am fully aware and see the potential as to what it does for people, I'm here to be a guide. So definitely reach out.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining in. I'm adding my email here, secure.dream@gmail.com. Please feel free to reach out to me. My information as well as on Instagram at Dream Secured Mentoring or Dr. Danielle J. I would love to work with you in moving forward or make sure that you're well prepared for interviews or the residency process, whatever the case may be. And that, Nahema, thank you so much for giving us your time today, and blessing us with these jewels of information regarding making sure we put our best foot forward. Y'all reach out to Black Gold Imaging. She will have you guys set. If you have social media, yes. If you have social media, if you're an entrepreneur, outside of your career, you have other ventures that require you, which everything requires us to be on social media, and you want to get a facelift or whatever the case is for your social media pages, Black Gold Imaging.
I'm here to help you along with your journey. I am so appreciative of this opportunity. I thank you for offering up this space and this time, so that way we can talk about this and assist people on their path.
Of course. All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining. You guys have a great night. And of course, email me, secure.dream@gmail.com. This has been a webinar with Dream Secured Mentoring Network, and we discussed interview imaging and putting our best foot forward. You guys have a great night. Thank you.
Good night.